Hi, I'm Molly.
And I'm Jamie, and this is our From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast. As the owners of Hired Hand website software, we've been developing websites and creating internet marketing strategies for livestock breeders for the past 10 years.
The majority of our customers are involved in the breeding of registered animals, such as Texas Longhorns, Highland cattle, horses, and white-tailed deer, where the pedigrees are very important. The From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast examines many of the differences in raising pedigreed livestock for maximum profit. Join us and learn what we're covering today.
All right, today I'm here with father-son duo Bob and Bryan Hines. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Bob and Bryan are with Cantera Cattle Company at Old Gringo Ranch, and you all are located in Wichita Falls, Texas. Is that right?
That is right. Wichita Falls, the cultural center of the universe.
Well, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been married to my bride, Kathy, for just almost 44 years. And I've got 30 kids, 2 daughters, and my son, Brian, and 5 grandkids.
Yeah, I'm Brian. My wife, Jenny, and we've been married for 7 years. We've got a little 3-year-old daughter. I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones, and she owns a flower shop here in town. A couple of dogs, just living the American dream.
So what would you say each of your roles on the ranch are?
I'm the super puncher.
Yeah.
I don't know what Brian's role is.
I'm the part-time puncher.
Do the wives and kids and grandkids get involved at all?
Not very much.
You know, it's funny. It's most of the time it's a one-man show because Brian has an actual job that he has to take care of. But it's fun when we get together, work cows and that kind of stuff. And actually recently I had a little hospital stay and I already had the vet scheduled to be here. And so I got out of the hospital and I sat in the mule and watched the vet and Kathy and Brian work cows. And that was hard to just be on the sidelines and not actually in there doing anything.
Now, Brian, did he watch or did he yell?
I think there was some yelling going on. I'll tell you a funny story about that. The pet cow, probably the favorite cow out here, she really is his pet. I mean, he can go up, scratch her, and brush her. She was not going in the alley while we were working her that day. So we're trying to be gentle with her, but we're trying to push her, and we can't get her to go anywhere. And so again, he's fresh out of the hospital. He kind of limps into the pen with a handful of cubes, and just here she comes like a little puppy. So I mean, he was out there, he was doing stuff, but we were taking orders.
Well, that's awesome. She must have missed you.
She missed the cubes.
There you go. Well, tell me a little bit about how you all got started in Longhorn.
You know, I think, I mean, I'll just go ahead and say Brian's my best friend. And so I think for a long time we wanted to find something to do together. And I don't remember whose idea it was, probably Brian, because I think we've always both kind of been wannabe cowboys. And he said, well, what about Longhorns? And neither one of us grew up around cows, so not really sure what I was agreeing to, but we said, okay, you know, we'll do that. But I said, if we do it, I want to make sure we do it right. And it's not just going to be a hobby, but we're going to operate it like a business, and we're going to get the best stock we can get. Not knowing at the time what all that involved, but it's definitely been an education, and we've enjoyed it.
That's awesome. So do you, I know I asked you this earlier about roles on the ranch, but when it comes to like the goals and the strategy of the breeding program, making sure it, is making money, like you said, and everything. Do you have different roles that you worked out that way?
Yes and no. I mean, we get together frequently and just talk cows and talk about breeding and kind of where we want this to go. I saw you kind of flinch. You want to add something?
No. Yeah, we have little business meetings every now and then and just kind of talk about the direction we want to go and where we feel we're at now. But not necessarily individual roles. We just,
Yeah. And I'll say, when we got into this, we bought our first Longhorn. And it was after we bought that Longhorn that we ran across Justin Rombeck. And I think we both realized that there was a whole lot we didn't know. And so we reached out to Justin, met with him, and brought him on board. And honestly, since that first purchase, Justin's been involved in every cow we've bought and every breeding that we've done. So I feel like we're not just throwing cows together and hoping for the best. Everything we do is there's a strategy and a goal for what we're doing.
So you mentioned Justin. Let's kind of segue into the next topic then. So tell me a little bit about who helped you get started, and also your first few and how exactly you got started.
yeah. So like you said, Justin was an incredible resource. Somebody coming into this industry 4 years ago, we didn't have a clue. He really helped kind of develop a direction for us, helped us from making some bad decisions. But he's been incredible. And we've met nothing but nice people in this industry. We bought cows. I know we bought a group of cows from Keith Hagler pretty early on. Great cows. Keith is as nice as they come. He's been a good friend in this breed. We got to meet guys like Kent Harrell and John Helm that have been great. There's so many great people that have helped us along the way. And for me in particular, being the younger partner in this, it means a lot to me whenever guys like Kent Harrell can look you in the face and say, hey, when you're presented with this situation, here's what I did. That probably wasn't right. Try to do things differently than I did. It means a lot to me personally whenever they're willing to impart their wisdom on me, just as a young new breeder.
What I enjoy the most, the Longhorn industry it's extremely competitive. Everybody wants to have the best Longhorns. But I have yet to meet a breeder that wouldn't give you the shirt off their back to help you out. We've had several people that, have allowed us to use their bull. And have asked for nothing in return. And so our deal is, we try to pay it forward and we try to help some other breeders, similar situations. And that's just a really neat aspect of this industry. But there's just some fantastic people. Brian named several of them that have helped us out a bunch.
So you've had great advice givers, great mentors, people who imparted their wisdom on you for purchases and sales and all of that. What about your first few that you bought once you decided you were going to do this and you were going to do it right? How did it all actually start off?
Well, it's kind of funny. The first one we bought was a bull. In retrospect, I wouldn't have done it that way. But we bought a bull, and we bought it from a gentleman that Brian actually worked with at the time. And so we go out and we look at it, and I agree to buy it. And I asked him, I said, so what makes this bull worth this much? Because I said, I see Longhorns all the time for sale for, $1,000, $1,500. What makes this one so special? And he just said, well, a pedigree. He said, it's got an outstanding pedigree. At that point, I didn't know enough to ask him any other questions, and that was good enough for me. Luckily, it did have a good pedigree, but we had a bull and didn't really know what else to do. The one thing we knew was it's not really good just to have one Longhorn by itself, and so we asked that guy. I said, "Okay, I'll buy it. Here's the check. Can you hang on to it until we get a couple more out here?" And so that's what we did.
So now that you've have them and have had them for a while, what's your favorite part?
For me, that's easy. I love when the calves are born. It's just really cool to actually be out there in the pasture with them. This has happened to me like on the last three. I'll be feeding cows in the morning, and all of a sudden I'll see a cow wander away from the herd by herself. And so I know what's coming, and I'll go watch her. And, typically within 30 minutes or so, here we got a calf. And it's just an exciting time. It's just really kind of awe-inspiring.
Well, and part of the key part of your story there is you get to watch her. You don't have to pull it. You don't have to help her. That's
Yes.
a definite bonus. So
Brian's got a kind of interesting story about helping out on some cows that weren't Longhorns.
Yeah, so my oldest sister has two mini Herefords. And while you were in the hospital one evening, actually the whole family pretty much was at the hospital. You were up there, my granddad was up there at the exact same time. My sister and brother-in-law had flown out to Vegas, and their neighbor called and said, "Hey, you've got two Herefords with hooves hanging out the back. It's been a couple hours and doesn't look like anything's happening." So while they're out of town, they called me, and I'm kind of dressed like I am now. And so we're flying across town to try to get out there. And my wife was in the truck with me. I'm rolling up my sleeves, and I look at her and I said, "Okay, you've heard that saying, everybody wants to do cowboy stuff. Everybody wants to be a cowboy until it's time to do cowboy stuff. And we're about to find out where I fall on that." And we get out there, and thankfully they had called some other friends too, probably more experienced. But we had to pull two calves, and one of them made it. But afterwards, I realized how much value there is in the Longhorns and not having to help them. With those mini Herefords, as cute and fluffy as they may be, every one of them is going to have a hard time calving. And thankfully, these Longhorns don't really need any help.
This last Longhorn that was born just about a week ago, Mama goes wandering off by herself, and so I kind of followed her, and I'm about 30 or 40 yards from her. And I'm watching her, and she lays down. And off to my left, there's two 6-month-old calves that are playing and getting rambunctious. And I watch them for 20 seconds. And I look back at Mama, and she's had the calf, and she's already cleaning it up. And I'm like, it doesn't get any easier than that.
So Brian, I'm curious, did you ruin your business attire that day then, or no?
I don't think I ruined anything. I had to do a pretty thorough cleaning on my shoes. But I'm probably the only advisor, at least in town, that's pulled calves in his dress clothes.
Well, those are some good stories about Longhorn temperament and, calving ability. Now I want you to share with me some of your funniest stories from your times working together.
Well, so like he said, we're kind of wannabe cowboys a little bit. I mean, we're learning as we go, but we're figuring things out. We have learned that we're not really ropers. A couple of years ago, we had one of my bull calves just all bowed up, wasn't looking healthy. But our pens are way at the back of the property, and it's kind of hard to get one bull calf over there instead of the whole herd. So I had a rope in my truck for whatever reason, I don't know.
Because you're a cowboy.
And so I thought, well, let me just see if I can rope them. And then we'll just doctor them right here in the pasture. Took me 2 throws, but I caught them, and it worked. We had them down and doctored, and everything went fine. So actually, I think it was that same bull calf several months later. We could not get him to go in the pens at all. He needed to be banded, and we just could not get him in there. So I thought, well, I'll just rope him again. And I did. We don't have horses. I'm not on horseback. So I roped him, and he proceeded to drag me across the pasture and beat me up before, he finally took off running, and we later found the rope, but for a while it was lost. And we came back to the front pasture, and there's we've got a bullpen up there, another bull calf, and Dad says, we need to get that one over here in the bullpen. He said, you think you can rope him? I said, I know I can rope him. I don't know what to do with him after that. And so he had the bright idea of tying the rope off to the winch on the mule, and then would catch him and just drag him back into the bullpen. And we did. Again, you caught that one, drug him back there, worked fine until you try to get the rope off. And then I think he beat us up for about 30 minutes. I know after we finally cut the rope, you went down to one knee thinking you were having a heart attack. I couldn't breathe. We're all beat up and bruised up. And so we learned that we're not ropers.
The funniest part about that whole deal to me, in retrospect, none of it was funny at the time. So we got this calf roped. And by this time, this calf is probably 600 pounds. And so he's roped, and Bryan gets the idea that he's just going to pick him up and throw him down.
I've seen it done before. It looks easy.
Again, this calf has got to be at least 600 pounds. And so Bryan goes to pick him up, and he ain't budging. He didn't move.
Sounds like you guys need to have a video crew follow you around sometime.
Well,
Make for some good video.
that one would have been a good one.
Yep.
So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about some more serious stuff. So when you decided you got your Longhorn, how did you decide on your ranch name?
Actually, so the original name is Old Gringo Ranch. And I don't have any illusions about who I am or what I look like. I'm just kind of a grumpy old man. And so Old Gringo just resonated. I liked it. There were 2 issues. We set it up as an LLC, and the state of Texas said, well, there's already an Old Gringo's Ranch with an S on the end. And so that's a little too close. Can't do that. And so we tried to come up with a different name for the cattle operation. And I wanted, something Longhorns, whatever. But Bryan's a little more thoughtful than I am. And he said, Dad, he said, you may want to do something else besides Longhorn someday. He said, you may want to raise black cows. So we just did the cattle company name, and then Cantera on our land at one of our pastures 100 years ago was an old sandstone quarry. And quarry in Spanish is Cantera. And so, it just had a nice ring to it, Cantera Cattle Company. And so it's kind of wordy, but it's Cantera Cattle Company at Old Gringo Ranch.
Nice. I like it.
Good.
I feel like most folks in the industry might just know you as Cantera Cattle Company, but yeah. I like the rest of the story for sure.
Good. Thank you.
So if we talk about your goals and kind of your dreams for your breeding program, what does the next year look like? What does the next 5 years look like?
Well, probably like everybody, when you start out, you buy a group of cows, that's your herd, and they're not bad cows at all, but you realize, okay, maybe they're not as special as we first realized. And so he's done a great job with AI pairings and embryo transfers. And so now he's got a group of really elite females on the ground. We probably need to kind of scale back just a little bit. And so our goal, at least for a little while, hopefully, is to try to sell 3 and buy 1 at sales, and we've talked to a lot of people that they've kind of said the same thing, that we want to focus on genetics and really have stellar cows, just not as many. And so we're doing that, but we're kind of in the process of trying to figure out consignments and where and when to sell who and that sort of thing. So for the next at least year, we're going to try to scale back on numbers just a little bit and really focus on some powerhouse genetics.
We're coming up on our 4th anniversary being in this. And I feel like we're getting really good at breeding Longhorns. Now we need to work on selling Longhorns. And, to this point, we've only consigned 3 or 4 to sales and done a couple private treaties and that kind of stuff. But as you know better than most people, there's just a lot of marketing and promoting and that kind of stuff that goes into it. And I feel like we've got our herd to a point where I'll show it to anybody. There's not a throwaway cow in the bunch. And so we can start selling them and really tout our program and what we're doing, what we have to show for it.
So if you could go back in time, is there anything that you would change over the past 4 years?
Well, I would probably like to tell ourselves that, hey, focus on kind of these set of genetics going forward. But you know what? Where we're at today, I don't think we could have gotten where we're at today if we'd really done it any different. We've learned a lot of valuable lessons in the last 4 years. And the people that we mentioned earlier that have kind of helped us and guide us, they've been instrumental in helping us get to where we're at.
If I could change anything, and if I had any advice for somebody getting into this, I'm as bad as anybody about wanting a bargain. And the first couple of sales we went to, I'd see a cow, really wouldn't know a whole lot about its pedigree, really wasn't knowledgeable enough yet about physical characteristics and all like that. That I just see a pretty cow, and you know, if I could buy it for $1,500, I'd raise my hand. My advice is focus on quality and focus on having fewer cows that are better suited to getting you where you want to go with a quality program. We got lucky. Well, I mean, I remember one of the very first cows we bought had a heifer calf inside, and the cow was a good-looking cow, but she wasn't really anything special. And I did wind up buying her. Justin told me basically to buy her, and I bought her cheap, which made me happy. But I asked Justin afterwards. I said, "So what's so special about that cow?" And he said, "You didn't buy that cow. You bought that calf." He said, that was what we were going for. And Brian alluded to her earlier, but she's my favorite cow out here. And she's spectacular. She's got great horn. She's got fantastic conformation, good genetics. And she's just as docile as she can be. And, you know, everybody wishes their whole herd was like that. I can say it today unless somebody gets stupid and offers me a ridiculous amount of money, but I don't see her ever leaving here.
That's what I was just going to ask you, is if she was for sale or if she had her forever home. So you answered that one.
Yeah.
So are the things that you would go back and change for yourself, does that basically also sum up your advice to new breeders? Or are there other things that you would tell new breeders who are in your spot that you were in 4 years ago, just getting started?
Yeah, I think I would tell a new breeder today that there's a whole lot of pretty cows out there. Focus on the quantity first and talk to people. And if there's something that you don't know, or if you have questions, ask them. There's a whole lot that we're still learning about matings and conformation and what to look for in feed and that sort of thing. I would just tell people, focus on quality, and if you don't know what that really means, ask questions. And talk to these veteran breeders to find out what they're doing.
And something I would add from a logistical standpoint, because I see a lot of posts on Facebook about fairly new breeders that really don't have a way set up yet to work their cows. You know, before you get too far into this, invest some money, get you a good set of working pens, and get you a chute that's made for longhorns. Not taking anything away from Brian, but there's a lot of times I'm working cows by myself. And if you've got a good setup and a good chute, it's really not a problem. So spend money on good cows, but don't skimp on your working facilities, your pens and chute.
It's often the stuff that's not as fun that folks don't want to focus on, right? So buying cows is fun, that's a blast, but buying a chute, maybe not as much.
Yep.
Love what you're hearing? Be sure to check out our Pickup Truck Confessions. It's a video series where we hop in the truck or rental car and interview a variety of breeders about what drives their passion for their livestock, how they got started in the breed of their choice, marketing tips, and more. And now, back to the podcast.
All right, let's talk about longhorns for a little bit now, more specifically. So you've kind of already answered this, Bob, so maybe I should direct this question at you, Brian, but who is the favorite in your own pasture and why?
My favorite at the moment is a cow, Allen's Dupree Dorothy. We bought her from Keith Hagler. I've been told, I think Keith wants her back, so this should say something. She's just, in my mind, the picture perfect kind of old school Texas long. She's got a great body. She throws some of the best calves that we've ever had.
Absolutely.
She's got a beautiful twisty horn set. She's a good milker. And she never causes a fuss. She's never been a problem. She's just, I don't know. She's just the perfect picture of kind of an old school Texas Longhorn, in my opinion.
She's out of that Doherty line of cows. And yeah, she represents the traditional look very well.
Did you all buy her from Keith at a consignment sale or private treaty?
Private treaty. Yeah.
Nice. So he probably has major buyer's remorse then if it was private treaty.
Well, we actually,
or seller's remorse, sorry.
at that time we bought 3 cows from Keith, and actually 2 of them were for sale. And I looked at Keith's website and I saw this other cow, and I'm like, what about that one? And Justin was kind of brokering the deal for us. And Keith is like, well, they really didn't want to sell that one, but since we were buying the other 2, he agreed to it. And I mean, that 3rd one is also one of our favorite cows.
What's her name?
Stars on Display. And she is a full sister to Gala Show of Stars.
Okay.
Beautiful handlebar horn set. She's given us some really nice calves, and she's 15 years old. And she's the one that I said that, you know, she had the cow about a week, the calf about a week ago when I was looking the other way. She's just, she's a really good mama. When I had her down being bred at a breeding facility, word got back to me that every evening she would follow her calf down to the creek feeder, and she would just stand there and wait until the calf got through feeding, and then she'd come back with her, you know. I'm like, she's a good mama.
So if you had to pick one longhorn cow, dead or alive, as your favorite, go ahead and each of you tell us why and who it would be.
Well, I would rather have one that's alive. Brian may have a different one. My favorite is actually one that I own in partnership with Dean Whitlock, is Pacific Yellowbell. She's a top caliber daughter. She's a little over 100 inches, and just a really elegant, beautiful horn set. I love her to death. I mean, I'll go ahead and tip my hand, but when you talk about bulls, I love everything top caliber has produced. And so we've got a heavy top caliber influence in our herd.
There's one that I have not seen her in person. I've only seen pictures of her. I think it's Horseshoe J Journey. It's just a beautiful corkscrew twist cow. I'm really partial to twist, and she's got it. And she's just gorgeous. She's probably even though I haven't seen her in person, she's probably my favorite that I've seen in pictures so far.
What about your favorite bull? Again, Bob kind of already answered this, I feel like, with top caliber, but what about you, Brian?
Yeah, we've got a lot of, you can pretty well pick them out of the sales, the top caliber daughters, because they catch both of our eyes. His daughters, you can tell that they're all siblings. They're just beautiful. He's thrown great offspring. He's probably my favorite too.
We have a lot of Cowboy Tough Jacks in our herd. And obviously, I mean, what's not to like about him? And now, you know, we're crossing several of our Cowboy Tough Jacks daughters and top caliber daughters with Rebel. And so there's a lot of great bulls out there right now. And, but again, I'll just say all time, dead or alive, love top caliber.
So is there a breeder or a herd out there that you kind of just drool over or aspire to have a herd like?
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. Some really good people out there have done phenomenal things. You know, a lot of our herd, like I said, we've got a lot of Cowboy Tough Checks, but Richard Phillip, I mean, everything he has is phenomenal. Kent Harrell got a spectacular herd. Dean Whitlock. But then there's people that, you know, maybe they don't have a giant herd, but you just say their name and you know everything they've got is just quality. And when I say that, I'm thinking of people like John Helm. I love people like that. I love being around them. I love learning from them. And, you know, if I have any aspiration, it's someday to have people look at our herd in the same way that I look at somebody like a Ken Harrell or John Helm.
Yeah, we've joked with John Helm that some of our next calves, we're going to put his name in there, you know, Helms, whatever. Everything that he puts out there is just drop dead gorgeous. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we could have a herd like his one day, it would be all right.
Well, before we switch gears and talk about internet marketing, is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners about your breeding program, your herd, anything at all?
Come buy cows.
Yeah, you know, if there's one thing that we need to do better, it's letting people know we're here, and just promoting what we have, because we've really invested in quality, and I'm proud of everything we've got, and so we just need to get better at letting other people know about it.
Well, this is a good start, right?
Yep.
And it's a good segue into our next topic. So go ahead and share your website address with everyone.
www.CanteraCattleCompany.com.
Perfect. And they can see all of the animals we've talked about so far on there, I assume, all of your favorites.
Yes, there are actually a few that aren't on the website, but I think the package we've got like 25 animals on there. Our herd's a little bigger than that. But if they don't see it, ask about it. We'll hook them up.
So if you had to describe your hired hand website in 3 words, what would they be?
More for that one.
I'll give you one word. It's concise.
There you go.
It's concise. I mean, it's Brian and I are a lot alike in many respects, and I think there's not a lot of wasted motion in what we do. There's not a lot of flowery words, and we don't belabor the point in descriptions and verbiage. We're kind of short and to the point. The website's great, but it's like I said, it's concise. I look at some other websites. Richard Phillip Bentwood is a great example. I love sites that give you a little more history of who they are, how they got there. I've seen some sites that, you know, they've got galleries of kind of random photographs, and that's cool. I like that. I think that kind of lets you know a little better who they are.
Do you have anything to add, Brian?
No, I mean, I agree. You look at like Kent Harrell's website and you can see pictures going back to when, you know, he's got a beautiful place up there in Oklahoma. You can see pictures of when they had, I think it was like a 9-hole golf course on the ranch. And, so I'd agree with that. You can kind of see a little bit more of who they are. I think the more pictures they have on there. So yeah, I think the 3 words are, it is concise.
There you go. So the theme I'm kind of hearing, leading me to my next question, which would be what draws you into a website? What makes you spend more time on it? You've given a couple different answers. Maybe it's the history or the photo galleries, but just kind of the feel I've got from you too. It might just be the pedigrees, right? You're going straight for the data that you need to see if you're interested in anything.
Yes, I mean, we do notice everything about people's websites. You know, we're drawn to the cool graphics. Weston Hetland has a great looking site. He's got this kind of silhouette, black and white silhouette of chart iron on the site that I think is, I mean, makes for a beautiful landing page. But yeah, we spend a lot of time just looking at the cows too.
I don't know if we go at this backwards, but I think a lot of times we go to a sale and we meet somebody we, you know, didn't know before. And maybe at that point, it'll trigger something and I'll kind of look at their website, learn a little bit more about them, that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't know that there's a real methodology to the way we do it.
How much time a week do you think you spend looking at Longhorn websites?
Oh, when we were starting out, it was a whole lot. I don't know. How much time do you think you spent?
You know, I'm spending all my time out in the pasture with the cows. You're the one that sits behind a desk and you can do that. I'd probably spend 2 to 3 hours a week.
Are you guys always sending each other texts with like links to different animals to check out in it or anything like that? I feel like you might be working on that a little.
A lot of times we do. It's, you know, it's, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. But I have noticed in the last few years, our only conversations, our only interaction is about longhorns.
Yeah, I don't know what we talked about before.
I don't either.
Well, then your goal was met though, right? That was the purpose, was to do something together. So you definitely accomplished it if that's the bulk of the conversation.
Yep.
So, and we talked a little bit about your favorite sites or some of your favorite sites that you visited. If you had to pick the last 3 or so Longhorn websites in your search history, would they be any different than those you've already mentioned?
Well, I have my last 3. I know I've looked at Kent Harrell's. I know I've looked at Dean's. And I'm trying to think of what the third one was.
You know, anytime, I think like the last one I probably looked at was Mac and Andrea Sillers. And so anytime there's, like I said, I'll see a Facebook post in one of the Longhorn groups, and it just kind of jars my memory. I'm like, oh yeah, and so I'll go look, and then while I'm there, I'm chasing rabbits and looking at everything else, you know, about their site. So that was, you know, the Sillers is probably the last one I looked at that previously I hadn't spent any time on.
So you brought up Facebook. Do you use social media a lot to try to find new animals or breeders you don't know a lot about?
Well, I can tell you that on Facebook, I think I have over 2,000 friends, and about 1,200 of those are Longhorn people. And of those 1,200, I've probably met 100. And so every other post on Facebook, my wife tells me this all the time, every other post on Facebook is a cow. Somebody in these Longhorn groups on Facebook that are sharing something. And I think that's beneficial to be able to put your animals out there in a way that you can just have discussions about it. And so I scroll in those Facebook groups quite a bit.
It's funny. I'll get a friend request from somebody, and in years past, I didn't go looking for friends, and I didn't accept friend requests from people I didn't know. But now if I get a friend request and I see that we have 294 mutual friends, I'm like, yep, they're good. I'll go ahead and add them.
Right? Or if their profile picture has a longhorn in it, you're good.
Yeah.
Is there, you talked a little bit previously about how you hope to sell more animals, do a little bit better job of marketing. Are there any plans in your future for utilizing social media more to get the word out about your program?
Yes.
I think, I was waiting for the finger point. I think I'm our social media manager and have been. That's been coming for about 4 years now. My wife is excellent with social media marketing. And I tried to pass that off on to her. Of course, she's busy. She's doing other things. But I think that is probably the easiest way to get your animals out there. And so I'd love to be doing more. That's on me for not. But a big piece of that too is getting quality photos. And so anything that we do put out there, I want to make sure it's a good quality photo.
I have about 5,000 quality cow photos right here.
There you go. Send all 5,000 to them. So yes, that's been a part of our marketing plan for 4 years now, and I just need to step up and do it.
I don't know how old your kids are, but I feel like maybe that'd be a great thing to kind of ease them into.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you would like to share about your website, about internet marketing, social media?
Please, if you run across us on Facebook and we don't know each other, send us a friend request, because that'll put kind of a face to the name. So when we go to sales and we see people, we're not always great about going up and meeting people, but and of course, there's kind of this awkward stage now too, where maybe we've been friends for a few years and we may know each other or know who each other is.
It's awful when you've been Facebook friends for 4 years, but you've never met somebody face to face.
Yeah.
And then you go to one of these sales and they're like, well, yeah, I kind of know them, but I don't really. And neither of us are very gregarious and outgoing. And so it's a little bit out of our comfort zone to just, put yourself out there, but we're working on it. We're trying.
That's all you can do, right?
Yep.
Well, thank you both so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Molly. Enjoyed it.
And we'll link your URL as well as some of the ranches that you mentioned in the show notes, so everyone can be sure to check it out.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.